Welcome back. Now, each day, Namibia records at least one suicide or attempted suicide, with a significant number of these being men. It's evident that this issue impacts individuals from all walks of life in Namibia and remains a very serious concern. Joining me in studio this evening to unpack this very troubling trend is psychologist Vanessa Carices. Vanessa, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Quite a somber topic that we're talking about, but I think a very important one. Can you talk to us about some of the factors that contribute to suicide, particularly amongst men in this country?
Yeah, firstly, I would like to underscore the importance of this topic because of the alarming statistics around suicide, and especially around men. In our country, about 84% of suicide is committed by men. So it's very important for men to sit closer and to listen, and for everybody to really sit closer and listen, and so that we can try and reduce the statistic. Responding to your question, we have to look at firstly substance abuse as a risk factor for suicide, especially amongst men. We have to look at existing mental health conditions. We have to look at depression. We have to look at the emotional state of people and of men. Particularly, we have to look at the contributions of shame and guilt, and especially shame and guilt because of its impact, or the impact that it has on the psyche of everybody. The biggest contributor of mental illness is shame and guilt.
Wow.
Yes.
Given that Namibia records over one suicide, but that's just one too many, what immediate steps, can we take as a nation to address what I would describe as a crisis?
Yes. Firstly, we have to dismiss and dismantle and break off and try to get rid of some of the myths around suicide. One of the biggest things and the scariest things that I hear is that when people talk about suicide, that people are they're not going to do it because people who are suicidal and who have serious intent to commit suicide don't talk about it. People do. And people, whenever they're serious about suicide, they talk about it. And when they have suicidal ideations, they talk about it. They give us signs. And we have to take those signs very seriously. One of those is that, and it is my deepest belief, that people who commit suicide have got zero intention to die. People who commit suicide and who talk about their suicidal ideations is
a cry for help?
It's a cry for help. It's an indication that I'm suffering with something and I need some assistance. So we should then look at the signs and step in to help.
Speaking on the topic of assistance, it's one thing, of course, to acknowledge that we've got this, what I would call crisis, as I mentioned, but another thing to actually do something about it. And what I want to know, in your opinion, do you think that we have enough capacity? Is there enough, healthcare professionals to deal with these matters? Are there enough facilities where men can go and seek help? Is there capacity to deal with the suicide rate that men are facing?
As a mental health professional, and if I can speak from that end, I would say that it's no secret anymore that qualified and registered mental health professionals are scarce in our country. If you look at government agencies and if you talk to people who are employers, you would realize how difficult it is to find qualified, registered experts to deal with these matters. So we have to look at that front, number one. But of course, there are resources out there and there are people out there to assist and there are professionals out there, although not enough. The state is doing an excellent job with social workers, free for everybody to use, general practitioners, nurses. Speak to someone, speak about it, ask for help, look for help. Help people to engage in help-seeking behavior rather than to dismiss the cry for help.
One of the things you mentioned earlier was a contributing factor is the stigmas around depression. What role do cultural and gender norms play in mental health challenges faced by men?
Especially, it makes it difficult, especially for men, makes it difficult for men to seek help, because men are groomed to be tough. Men are groomed to be to not be weak, to not need. So therefore, mental health challenges of men are seldom addressed, because not only does gender discourage help-seeking behavior in men, because if you seek help, then you are weak, you are not man enough. So gender plays a very big role in minimizing and reducing and being counterproductive as it relates to help-seeking behavior for mental health challenges for men.
I want to talk strategies that can be implemented to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health issues and encourage men, to go out and seek help. And I want you to talk to us, from an individual standpoint, from a grassroots standpoint. What can we at home do? Because these are our fathers, these are our partners, these are our cousins, uncles, brothers. So what can we do at home? How can we play our part as family members?
As I said earlier, the suicide ideation is but a symptom of a deep-seated emotional or psychological struggle. And it is really, people who have suicidal ideations just want the relief, just want to feel a little bit better. And suicide is really not an intent to die, but a way to get relief of this emotional pressure that the person is suffering from. First of all, we need to acknowledge the existence of emotional difficulty or psychological difficulty. Secondly, we should understand the person from their perspective. So when you lend a listening ear, when you lend a shoulder to cry on, it's to be done from the perspective of that person, and in a non-judgmental and a safe space. So be a safe space for somebody who you have identified or who has come to you clean to say that I'm struggling. There's nothing that compassion, genuineness, non-judgmental empathy can do.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that somebody with suicide ideations, they would sometimes speak up, they would make mention of it, but that's not always across the board. It's not the case for everybody. There are instances where people lose a family member by suicide and they had no idea. And perhaps it could be that there really were no signs, or that we just don't know what to look for. So what are the signs that we should be looking out for?
The first sign is low energy levels, zero interest in life, signs of there's nothing to live for, have no meaning in life, apathy, people who do not enjoy activities and hobbies that they would previously enjoy. Someone who has gone through a traumatic life experience should receive the necessary care and attention that they require. So generally, just a low mood around somebody who was normally a hypey, or a normal energy level, stopping to going out, refusing to groom, all those kind of things are just but little signs of a depreciating psychological state.
Any last remarks you'd like to leave us with? We are out of time, and perhaps you can talk to us at programs that you know of, or I mentioned, of course, yesterday as well, that Lifeline Namibia is one option. You can call the toll-free number 116. Any other avenues that you'd like to highlight this evening?
Ministry of Health and Social Services, social workers, private practitioners. I've also realized as a practitioner that people have access to resources. Some people have medical aid, but they don't use the services. So seek help as early as possible. Encourage people to seek help. The stigma around mental health does not help us at all, because mental health illness and mental health is just like physical health, and it needs to be taken care of. And our statistics around suicide in men is a clear indication that we have a lot of work to do around mental health.
Vanessa, it was lovely speaking to you again this evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, we come to the end of this evening's